Greetings and welcome back to room 303 and our talks with Walt, as we are calling our readings through the deathbed edition of Walt Whitman's Leaves of Grass. We are now at the conclusion of the section called Children of Adam. We are turning now to the very last poem, As Adam Early in the Morning, which is of course a kind of strange title for sure in the opening line. We're going to talk a little bit about the syntax, the grammar of this poem, and talk about the significance of this being the last poem of Children of Adam. Now, my assumption is that you've been following our stuff at learnstrong.net, down that left-hand side, Talks with Walt, and you've been with us from the very beginning in our inscriptions poems, right up through the poem that we just worked with, Facing West from California Shore. The background for this poem is as well quite interesting. It is the final, number 15 poem of Children of Adam group. The first line, early in the morning, quote-unquote, was altered in 1867 to its present reading so that the controlling symbol, Adam, in the garden is the specific image of the entire poem. Now we're going to see Adam here as a powerful symbol at the conclusion of this collection of poetry that we call Children of Adam. And we're going to pay attention to the word touch and the way that that word will clearly carry a certain kind of powerful meaning. By the way, let's just point out, as you've already seen it in your study of Leaves of Grass, Whitman loves the word early, right? I mean, he enjoys this word, and so we'll play the game now as Adam early in the morning. Let's just read now the poem. As Adam, early in the morning, walking forth from the bower, refreshed with sleep, behold me where I pass, hear my voice, approach, touch me. Touch the palm of your hand to my body as I pass. Be not afraid of my body. Now, the poem will work on a number of levels, but readers of the original poem, when it was published and in the deathbed edition of Leaves of Grass, immediately thought about their reading of especially Genesis 3 and verse 8. You'll remember this line, they heard the voice of the Lord God walking in the garden in the cool of the day, is the way that the King James Version, the version that the translation that Whitman would have known and his readers as well would have known. Notice how that game is being played by Whitman. I always call it a game because that's what he calls it, of course, in the earlier sets of lines. And it is kind of a game. I think Whitman is in fact smiling. Now, let's point out, the word as is usually understood as the beginning of some kind of a simile, right? But notice that here we're playing around with as Adam early in the morning walking forth. So it's not God walking in the Garden of Eden, but rather it's Adam walking, and it's early in the morning, right? And of course, morning can become symbolic in any number of ways as well. That is to say, at the very beginning of a project, Whitman himself was very, very aware that he was writing at the beginning of a democratic enterprise that was going to ultimately be the experiment that, of course, his hero Lincoln would talk about it as in the Gettysburg Address, right? Notice, we're going to be walking forth from the bower. We're going to be refreshed. Notice it's an elated verb, with sleep. In other words, this is brand new. Notice the irony that we're at the end of Children of Adam, and yet this is where we are. And you can go back to the very first poem. Let's just do that for a second. Go back to the very first poem of the Children of Adam section, and as you look at that very first poem of the Children of Adam section, remember that it was to the garden, the world, right? And so he's brilliantly kind of constructing this circle, borrowing from our poem that we just recently studied, Facing West from California Shores. He's constructing this amazing poetic circle, right? Walking forth from the bower, refreshed with sleep. We're going to have a lot to say about sleep through Leaves of Grass, and especially the poem Sleepers. Behold, now he's using this language from the King James Version of the Bible. It gives him a certain kind of authoritarian voice, a sage voice, a Homeric bardic voice. Behold me, where I pass. Now again, we're to this, they heard the voice of the Lord, right, walking. Pass, hear my voice, approach, touch me. Notice the repetition of the word touch. Touch me. Touch the palm of your hand to my body as I pass. Now, we have to go back, of course, just for a moment to Song of Myself, passage 24. Do you remember these lines? We exegeted them earlier. Divine am I inside and out. I make holy whatever I touch or am touched from. The scent of these armpits, aroma finer than prayer. This head more than churches, Bibles, and all the creeds. It's clear that we're playing games here as we use this word touch. Touch me. Touch the palm of your hand to my body. That's significant because that will also be the last word of this poem and this section. As I pass, be not afraid of my body. Now, of course, this can be rendered sexually, physically, but it can also be rendered as the body of work. That is to say, the collection of poems that we will qualify as not just Children of Adam, but of course, Leaves of Grass itself. Well, what is really going on here? Well, I think that the argument that Whitman is wanting to make as he finishes Children of Adam is that the truest poet touches and longs to be touched. That is to say, to be understood. And you get this sense in Children of Adam that there's this longing for touch. And that touch can be, yes, physical, no question, but it can also be intellectual, right? Metaphysical, understanding, appreciation. That is to say, inclusion. At 2b, notice that this poem is actually a single sentence. Scholars have pointed this out. It kind of works from a vague subordinate clause to an independent clause. I'll let you guys kind of go back and study that. It's kind of fascinating. I've mentioned a 3a Genesis 3, but I want to challenge you now to go back and to look at all the poems of Children of Adam and see them as a unit. And what is it that is the argument that Whitman is making? I would argue that it is the universality and the interconnectivity that we all enjoy and experience, while at the same time not relinquishing our individuality and that desire to somehow be the individual human being that's of greatest importance. That tension is clearly here in all the Children of Adam texts. But I think we got to pick up with that last word as well. You saw it there one more time. That word, be not afraid. If there's anything that I think Whitman is trying to rewrite the Augustinian understanding of the Genesis 3 account, it is, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. No more fear. And of course, he's picking up on those lines a few lines later. Now man has become as us, knowing good and evil, right? And the idea that he might reach out his hand and touch that tree of life, and therefore, we got to get him out of here. Of course, Milton comes to mind as well at 3a, and those final lines from Paradise Lost. The truth of the matter is all the way through almost every one of the poems of Children of Adam, we could have read those final lines of Paradise Lost, and it would have worked. Finally, at 3b, who do you long to touch and to be touched by? Not just physically, but intellectually. Who is it that you wish could really understand you, could really appreciate you for the individual that you are? And of course, who do you long to be able to understand better? I'm hoping that your study of Children of Adam have led you to feel like you understand Whitman better, that you appreciate what his project is better. Now we move from Children of Adam, and by the way, congratulations those of you who have been able to follow us all the way from the very first inscription poem all the way up now to concluding poem of Children of Adam. We now turn to the Calamus section, and those poems, oh man, those poems are going to challenge Whitman's audience in ways that maybe no other collection of poems will, and continue to challenge today. We're on to Calamus, and I'm hopeful that you will enjoy the experience in a text called Leaves of Grass. Thank you.